I was talking to an Army officer who had been at the camp where Elvis Presley is. All of the kidding and the ribbing about getting his hair cut and all of that, he took it all like a drum major.
In the glittering world of television history, there are a few names that echo louder than others, and one of them is Ed Sullivan. Known as the gatekeeper of American entertainment, Sullivan's Sunday night variety show wasn't just a program, it was a cultural institution. Week after week, millions tuned in to watch singers, comedians, dancers, and even novelty acts showcase their talent on one of the most powerful platforms of the 20th century. If you made it on Ed Sullivan's stage, you had arrived. Careers skyrocketed and stars were born. But behind the polished curtains and primetime smiles, there was a side of Ed Sullivan that fans rarely saw. Despite introducing the world to legends like Elvis Presley and the Beatles, Sullivan carried with him sharp opinions, strong values, and sometimes even grudges. Just before his death, he revealed a shocking confession: the names of 6 singers he truly hated. For a man who held the power to make or break careers, this revelation stunned audiences and music insiders alike. Why did Sullivan, a man who shaped American pop culture, harbor such disdain for some of its brightest stars? And who exactly made that infamous list? Stay tuned, because we're diving deep into the untold stories, the backstage tensions, and the explosive moments that defined not only Sullivan's career, but also the future of music itself. And if you're new here at Hollywood Star News, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because we bring you the most fascinating behind-the-scenes stories of Hollywood's biggest icons. Let's begin with perhaps the most surprising name of all, Elvis Presley. When we think of Elvis, the image that comes to mind is clear: the king of rock and roll, electrifying audiences with his voice, charm, and those infamous hip movements. But to Ed Sullivan, Elvis wasn't just a star, he was a problem. At first, Sullivan flat out refused to book him. After watching Elvis's gyrating performance on the Milton Berle Show in 1956, Sullivan deemed it vulgar, animalistic, and far too inappropriate for American families. Yet ratings speak louder than morals, and Elvis's popularity forced Sullivan to change his mind. Eventually, Elvis appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, but only filmed from the waist up to avoid scandalizing audiences. Ironically, those appearances, watched by more than 60 million people, cemented Elvis's superstardom. And while Sullivan later called him a real, decent, fine boy, it's no secret that Elvis lingered on Sullivan's list of most disliked performers. Another clash came with Buddy Holly. Known for his horn-rimmed glasses, raw sound, and genre-defining hits like Peggy Sue, Holly was already a sensation when he appeared on Sullivan's show in 1958. But Sullivan hated being challenged, and that's exactly what Buddy Holly did. The disagreement started when Sullivan demanded that Holly change his song choice from "Oh Boy," claiming the lyrics were too suggestive for television. Holly refused. He wasn't going to compromise his music, not even for Ed Sullivan. As punishment, Holly's sound levels were reportedly turned down during the broadcast. Still, Holly's energy and defiance only strengthened his image as a true rock rebel. For Sullivan, however, Buddy Holly was someone he would never forgive. Then there was Bob Dylan. By the early 1960s, Dylan was emerging as the voice of a new, restless generation. When he was invited to appear on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1963, he planned to perform his satirical track, Talkin' John Birch Paranoid Blues. But CBS executives pressured him to change the song, fearing its political content. Dylan refused and walked out. That decision became a defining moment of his career. But for Sullivan, it was an insult. A performer rejecting the stage that he had built, that stung deeply, and Dylan too landed on his list of despised artists. Of course, we can't forget the Beatles. Their 1964 debut on Sullivan's stage is legendary, marking the official start of the British invasion. More than 73 million Americans tuned in, an astronomical number for the time. Yet Sullivan wasn't exactly thrilled. While he admired their professionalism, he disliked their cheeky humor, mop-top haircuts, and the chaos of Beatlemania that followed them everywhere. He may have smiled on camera, but off stage he complained about their irreverence and the frenzy they unleashed. Still, he couldn't deny the ratings gold they brought him. The relationship was even more strained with James Brown. Nicknamed the Godfather of Soul, Brown brought explosive energy, fiery dance moves, and raw emotion to every stage he stepped on. For Sullivan, whose brand was built on family-friendly entertainment, Brown's intensity was unsettling. His splits, mic drops, and sweat-drenched passion clashed with Sullivan's conservative values. Producers even pressured Brown to tone down his act for television. But James Brown never shrank himself to fit anyone's rules, not even Sullivan's. For audiences, his performances were unforgettable. For Sullivan, they were a headache he never fully embraced. And finally, other rock and roll acts of the 50s and 60s, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Rolling Stones, the Doors, each had run-ins with Sullivan's rigid expectations. Jim Morrison famously defied orders by singing the word higher in Light My Fire during a 1967 appearance, sending Sullivan into a fury. The Rolling Stones were told to censor lyrics, and when they didn't, Sullivan threatened never to book them again. Time and again, the rock revolution clashed with Sullivan's desire for control. Looking back, Ed Sullivan's list of hated singers reveals more than personal grudges. It shows the growing divide between an old guard desperately holding on to traditional values and a new generation demanding freedom, authenticity, and rebellion. In his own way, Sullivan both resisted and fueled this cultural shift. By reluctantly giving these artists a stage, even while despising them, he legitimized the very movements he tried to restrain. From Elvis to Dylan, Buddy Holly to James Brown, and of course the Beatles, the tension between Sullivan's authority and these groundbreaking artists helped shape modern music history. Without him, rock and roll might never have stormed America's living rooms. But without them, Ed Sullivan might be remembered only as a stiff television host, instead of the man who, whether he liked it or not, ushered in a cultural revolution. And now we turn the question over to you. What do you think of Ed Sullivan's final confessions? Did his dislike for these artists reflect personal taste, or was it about protecting the values of an older generation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this deep dive from Hollywood Star News, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell, because we bring you the most fascinating behind-the-scenes stories of Hollywood's biggest icons. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.